Welcome to our training video on hazard communication. In this video, we will learn about hazard classification, labels, safety data sheets and employer responsibilities. The OSHA Hazard Communication Standard or HCS is designed to protect employers and their employees from chemical source injuries and illnesses by providing employees with information to recognize chemical hazards and take appropriate protective measures when handling them. Information about chemical hazards are provided through the use of labels, safety data sheets or the SDS, and through employee training. OSHA estimates that about 32 million workers are regularly exposed to hazardous chemicals in the workplace.
And every single one of them has a right to know about what they are working with, and that is why we have the HCS.
Hazard classification is the process of taking available data to evaluate in order to determine if a chemical is hazardous and how severe that hazardous effect is. In the HCS, Appendix A and B provide information and criteria to classify the hazards of hazardous chemicals. Appendix A informs on health hazards while Appendix B informs on physical hazards. Only chemical manufacturers and importers are required to perform hazard classifications on the chemicals they produce or import. If a distributor or employer is concerned about the adequacy of the hazard information they receive, they can choose to conduct a hazard classification. Employees that work with chemicals can be exposed to health hazards through a variety of exposure routes. These are absorbing the chemical through your skin or your eyes, ingesting the chemical, inhaling vapors, mists, or dust produced by the chemical, or the chemical being injected into the body. Chemical health hazards include those that affect the eyes, skin, reproductive systems, the nervous system, and specific target organs such as the brain, the heart, the kidneys, the lungs, and others. Employees can be exposed to and harmed by physical hazards presented by chemicals. These hazards can be in the forms of fires, explosions, or the corrosion of metal. The National Fire Protection Association created the NFPA 704 to help quickly and easily identify the risks that a hazardous material poses. The 4 sections of the diamond are color-coded. The red section is for the material's flammability hazard. The blue section is to represent the severity of health hazards presented by the material. The yellow section is to show the instability of the material. The white section is for any special hazards the material may have. The 4 sections of the diamond are also labeled with codes to inform on the severity of the hazard the material poses. The red, blue, and yellow sections are coded on a 0 to 4 scale. 0 means the material's hazard in that section is the least severe, while a 4 means the material's hazard is the most severe. The white section is used to alert of any special hazards the material poses, such as if the material is water reactive. An example here would be a magnesium fire. If you attempt to put it out with water, it will cause an explosion. The HCS requires that chemical manufacturers, importers, or distributors ensure that every container of hazardous chemicals leaving the workplace have been labeled, tagged, or marked. The label has to include the name, address, and phone number of the manufacturer, importer, or distributor. Labels are also required to have a product identifier. This is used to identify the hazardous material. The identifier could be the chemical's name, a code number, or a batch number. Next is the signal word. There are only 2 words used as signal words. These are warning and danger. We use warning for the less severe hazards while danger is used for the more severe. No matter how many hazards a chemical may have, there will be only 1 signal word on the label. Hazard statements are used to describe the nature of the hazard or hazards of a chemical. This can also include the degree of hazard.
That is right. This bottle is something found in many households, basic nail polish remover. A few examples of the hazard statements you can find on the label or in the SDS would be, causes serious eye irritation, and may cause dizziness or drowsiness.
Labels should also contain a precautionary statement or statements. These describe the recommended measures that one should take in order to prevent or minimize adverse effects resulting from exposure to the hazardous chemical or improper storage or handling. There are 4 types of precautionary statements. These are prevention, response. This type would be used for accidental spillage or exposure, emergency response, and first aid. Then there is also storage and disposal. Lastly, a label is required to have a pictogram on it. Pictograms are graphic symbols used to communicate specific information about the hazards of a chemical. Pictograms consist of a red square frame set at point with a black hazard symbol on a white background. While there are 9 available pictograms, OSHA will only enforce the use of 8 of them. The required symbols are the flame over circle, a normal flame, corrosion, the gas cylinder, the skull and crossbones, health hazard, an exclamation point, and the exploding bomb. If you work in a place where you transfer a chemical into a secondary container, a good example being a restaurant, if the chemical will not be used up immediately, the secondary container must be labeled.
Most restaurants use a basic cleaner solution that they dilute with water in order to clean their food-safe surfaces. All of the spray bottles containing the cleaners must have a label on them to identify what they are and what the hazards of the chemical are.
Next, we are going to talk about safety data sheets, which are also referred to as the SDS. The HCS requires that the chemical manufacturer, distributor, or importer provide safety data sheets for each hazardous chemical to downstream users to communicate information on the hazards presented by that chemical. The SDS includes information such as the properties of each chemical, the physical, health, and environmental health hazards, protective measures, and safety precautions for handling, storing, and transporting the chemical. Information contained in the SDS must have an English translation regardless of where you are. I am sure you are asking, what are my employer's responsibilities in all of this? Well, the HCS requires employers to maintain a list of hazardous chemicals that are present in the workplace. The purpose of this list is to document chemicals used or stored at the facility. Employers must also ensure that the safety data sheets are readily accessible to all employees for all hazardous chemicals in the facility. The SDS may be kept in a binder or on computers so long as all employees have immediate access to the information without leaving their work area. Should an incident occur with a chemical, please report it immediately to your supervisor. And always remember that you have a need and a right to know what chemicals and materials you are working with in your workplace. This concludes our training video on hazard communication. Thank you for watching.